Yo, what's up guys? Today I want to talk about one of the best Spiritborn leveling builds for Season 12, and this is a pure poison rush build, which means we apply poison to everything around us and we dash from pack to pack as fast as possible. Now, Season 12 is the season of speed. It's the season where we want to keep streaks up as much as possible, which means we need to move from pack to pack and take down those packs as fast as possible. Now, this was one of the best leveling builds last season, and coming into Season 12, it has only seen improvements. Bitter Medicine has had a 20% buff to the poison damage it gives off, and the legendary node Drive now has been reworked to give us more stacks, which means we can ramp more damage, but it resets faster, meaning we need a faster build to make the best of that, which we have. So I've made a few changes from last season to make this a little bit faster and a little bit, to play off the streak system better, so we can get around and jump into big packs, pull them in, and take them down as fast as possible. So let's get straight into this, starting with the skill tree. Okay, so starting from the top, we want to start with this one here, Withering Fist. This is our basic ability. Just put a point into here. Now, as you're leveling, this is going to be it's going to be a way to apply poison damage, but it's also going to give you this second effect here. Your third attack damages enemies and slows them. And we have a lot of things here that scale off of crowd control, and you'll see a lot of abilities that say does if the enemy is crowd controlled. So it works quite well. Now, as you're leveling and as you progress through the levels, you will slowly stop using this and you will replace it, but we'll talk about that later. Early on, at least for like the first 30, 40 levels, you're going to need to have Vigor Generation, so you're going to use this. In the core skills, we go for Stinger. This is very good poison damage and it hits things all around, which is pretty good too. You want a 5 out of 5 this, you want to put 1 point into Enhanced, applies base damage as poison over 6 seconds to all enemies hit. And then you want to go for Advantageous, so if it hits a vulnerable enemy, you heal. If you are healthy, it also makes enemies vulnerable. And with this build, you will be in that state a lot. You want to put 1 point into Vigorous. Now, you might want to put more into here early on, but do not stick to 1, because you will find Vigor Generation much easier the more you level. 3 points into Balanced Exertion. Core skills cost 9% more Vigor, but deal 15% more damage. And then Velocity, 3 Vigor per second while moving. Now, Vigor is just if you're brand new to Spiritborn, Vigor is like your mana bar. It's you need Vigor to cast anything above a basic skill. Coming into the next section, you want to take none of these abilities. You put 1 point into Focal Point to get to here, Apex, 9% increased damage to vulnerable enemies, double it against elites. Now, the next section is a very, very important ability, Scourge. This does poison damage over time, and it does crowd control. It fears and slows, which is very, very important when we go over the gear and the aspects of why that gives us even more damage. You want to put 1 point into Enhanced. Every time you hit an enemy with Scourge, you get increased damage against crowd-controlled enemies, up to 50% increased damage against crowd-controlled enemies, which is huge. And then you go here, Casting Scourge grants 60% of your Vigor over 6 seconds. So we're starting to get much more Vigor generation as you get down into here. You want to put 3 points into Endurance. Casting a defensive skill grants you 30 Vigor. And this is our defensive skill, right? So you pop this, not only are you getting a big hit of Vigor, you're then getting Vigor Generation. Okay, then we take the Touch ability, and this gives us AoE poison, and also when we defeat an enemy, they will create a swarm, and this will spread the poisons. Now, this is really good when we get to the gear, because you'll see we have other things that do things to these swarms. So creating them is very important. You take a thing here, which gives you a heal, and then you go down here, the swarms burst every second, applying base poison damage over 6 seconds to surrounding enemies. So when you see the clip at the start where everything is just poisoned all around us all the time and it just keeps proccing, that's from this. Then we take the Rushing Claw. We're going to put 1 point into this because we don't care about the damage. This is our dash. This is how we dash. And what we do is we go 1 point into Enhanced and 1 point into Invasive. Now, I'll explain this if you've never played a Spiritborn. Using Rushing Claw's last charge will refill 4 charges by consuming stacks of ferocity. So as long as we can keep our stacks up, which is very easy, we have infinite uses of our claw, which means you can dash from pack to pack to pack forever and never run out of Rushing Claw. So very, very, very powerful when you've built it like this. So I'll show you the gear that makes up for it, and you should never run out of Rushing Claws. You put 3 points into Vehemence. Your potency skill deals 30% increased damage. You go for 3 points into Ravenous for increased damage, and then 3 points into Oppressive for increased damage to crowd-controlled enemies. We come down into the final section, the ultimate, and of course we take the Devourer, the big centipede. This is just the big fun, everything goes down button. Really, really, really cool ability, just giant poison. You take this here, as it emerges, it launches toxic globs, and then you have while it is active, if a non-boss enemy remains, poison, they go down instantly and unleash a pestilent swarm that deals damage. So really, really cool ability. 3 points into Resolution, so you get increased damage to elites. 3 points into Spiritual Attunement, so your max Vigor is increased, which means when we have like max Vigor regeneration, things like that, where it's like a 60% increased Vigor regeneration, you have a bigger pool to regenerate into, meaning you shouldn't run out of vigor ever. 3 points into supremacy for a huge damage boost. You put 1 point into sustenance to get into intricacy, and 3 points into that. Upon casting an ultimate, the last potency, defensive, or focus skill you cast is reset and can be cast for 3 times for free. So all your abilities start coming off cooldown every time you bash your ultimate ability, which means the more cooldown reduction we have in our gear, the more everything will come off cooldown. And then finally, for our key passive, we go for Noxious Resonance. Your crit strikes cause your poisoning on an enemy to burst, dealing 300% of the total poison instantly, and then more to those around. Now, this is perfect for this season because we don't want to be sat in a big pack watching the poison bar tick down. We just want to get in, apply poison, see their name go green, burst it, and then move on to the next pack. That's the build. It's gonna be incredible for leveling. Okay, now onto the Spirit Hall, and assuming you've never played a Spiritborn, the way this works is you pick a main one and a second one. The main one will add an extra tag to all of your abilities. So if you had a bunch of, gorilla abilities down here, and you went centipede, it would tag those gorilla abilities as centipede. So we go centipede. What it does is it tags rushing claw as a centipede ability. You can see it has the jaguar tag, and it also has a centipede tag, which is good. Because, then that anything that increases centipede damage increases the rushing claw damage, which is cool. But what it also does is it reduces enemy damage, giving us survivability. It slows them, which adds a crowd control, which gives us a ton more damage because we do more damage to crowd controlled enemies. And we do poison. And whenever we scale our poison damage, we also scale this, which is great. And then for the second one, we go for the Jaguar Spirit Hall to gain a maximum stack of ferocity, so an extra 1 to 1 maximum. And then we gain ferocity whenever we defeat an enemy or we damage a boss. Now, why is that so important? Because one, our ferocity is attack speed. So having more ferocity gives us more attack speed, it makes us faster. And you saw at the start, we're just zipping around as fast as possible because we've got a lot of ferocity, right? And there's other ways in the gear to get more ferocity. But two is it resets our rushing claw. So in the rushing claw, you can see at the bottom, using rushing claw's last charge will refill 4 charges by consuming 4 stacks of ferocity. So keeping it really simple, rushing claw has 4 stacks. When they run out, you have to wait for them to come back. If you have enough ferocity, you can dip into that automatically, passively, and it will refill that back to 4, which means you can dash from pack to pack forever. As long as you can keep this up, which means you just got to defeat enemies, so you can constantly keep dashing. So it makes this super mobile, and in the season where we want to keep our streaks as high as possible and just dash around as fast as possible, this combo works really, really well. Okay, now let's talk about the aspects and the gear, and I'm going to use the build guide to show this. This is linked down below. It's got everything in it. I update this every season, and it's packed of information, so hopefully it has everything you need. All of the different things are in here, but let's go over the aspects. So if you're a little bit new to Diablo, the 2 key things you need to know are the aspect on your weapon has a 200% boost, and the aspect that goes on your amulet has a 150% boost. So those 2 are very, very important. And what do we go for? On the weapon, we go for the aspect of Pestilence. So Stinger spawns a Pestilence Swarm at its base location, which deals Stinger's base damage, and the swarms now last 50% longer and spiral outwards. And Stinger is our ability here. It's our core ability, so it's the thing you'll be pressing the most. I just have it on my right click and just hold it down all the time. And this just gives that a massive damage boost. Swarms will just spread out all around you. It's just a huge boost of damage. On the amulet, we go for aspect of the Binding Morass. Close enemies, or those you deal indirect damage to, are slowed for 3 seconds, and you deal up to 30% increased damage to slowed enemies. And we have multiple ways to slow enemies, and that's another source of crowd control, which is fantastic. On the other aspects, we go for I'll just go top to bottom really. Raiders on the helmet, heal for max life when you poison a healthy enemy, which happens all the time. Menacing, Scourge affects enemies around you, so you have like an aura around you of constant poison. Then we go for aspect of Infestation. Now this again will proc more Pestilent Swarms, so our centipede skills have a chance to spawn one, and they deal more damage when we do spawn them. On the pants, you go for Duelers, which gives you a max ferocity increase. You want to get this as high as possible. You can get it up to 5 extra stacks of ferocity, which is 5 extra stacks of attack speed, and that's again more rushing claw procs, so the more the better. On the boots, we go for aspect of Shared Misery. When you hit a crowd controlled enemy, there is a chance for that crowd control effect to spread, and again, the more crowd control we have, the more damage we deal. On the rings, we go for Insatiable on the first one. When you defeat an enemy, the duration of your touch ability increases, and when it is replaced early, it bursts for additional damage. So you're not overlapping, and if you do, you're bursting for up to 300% damage. On the second one, we go for the Rip and Tear. Rushing Claw deals increased damage, which is fine. You don't really care about that. But it is empowered based on how many charges it has left. The first one heals you, the second one will overpower, the third one will crit, the fourth one will strike an additional time. Now, as we're getting into like endgame high torment, that damage starts to fall off, but for leveling, you'll really feel it. So I think this is a great one. Okay, when it comes to the gear stats, I don't want to get too deep on this because you are going to replace in gear a lot while you level, but I've tried to put recommended stats in all of the, if you hover over it, you'll see the recommended for every single one. But generally, you want resistances, armor, life. You want ranks to any of your abilities. So you can see here, ranks to touch, ranks to scourge. Down here, you've got ranks to stinger. On your amulet, you've got ranks to the passive abilities, like the passive points in the skill tree. You want to take attack speed, you want to take cooldown reduction, and all that stuff. When it comes to tempers, anywhere that you can do a utility temper, so head, chest, your pants, your amulet, things like that, you want to increase the size of your poison abilities. So Stinger is a very good one because that's going to be something you will be casting every single pack instantly. You just be holding that button down. That's very good. Scourge size is very good too. So you can see here, you've got Scourge size tempered, which is pretty good. And then on your weapon, you want to be going for primary centipede spirit hall damage, which means the primary, spirit hall we choose, which is centipede, that will scale that damage. Anyway, you can do offense, you can just go for centipede abilities. So you can go for like centipede damage on your offensive. For resource, you can go for Devourer cooldown, which is pretty good if you want to do that, because bringing the cooldown of the Devourer down will also bring the cooldown of all your other abilities down based on how that works. So that's the gear. Like I say, leveling build. I do have a endgame version of this, but I want to get in and update that much better in season, like play with all the new items, play with the new affixes, things like that, and give you a really good tailored endgame version. So subscribe if you want to see that. But this should get you going for leveling. Okay, onto the Paragon board, and this is a leveling build, but I try and do a leveling build that can take you all the way into the torments, and then when you're there, you can start farming your uniques, you can start farming your glyphs, you can start farming all your endgame stuff, and then move into a full endgame blaster build. So I try and do a full 5 board if you want to use it, but if you want to like get to here and then switch, cool, but it's here if you need it. So we start out with the base, you go down both sides to get both of those big bonuses. Into the middle, you take Bane. The more strength you have, the more poison damage you deal. It's perfect. There's loads of strength nodes here as well. You double dip both sides as well because there's lots of strength nodes all around. Then you want to come out and you want to grab the board here, Bitter Medicine. Bitter Medicine has been buffed this season. It doesn't show it now, but this is going to be buffed. So awesome. When you heal for 100% of your max life, afflict close enemies dealing 200% poison damage, and cousins take increased poison damage up to 6 seconds up to 60%. This will be 80% in season 12, which is incredible. We've got some attack speed down here. We can come up here and we get this glyph here. Consumption. Every 5 intelligence purchased within range, your swarms deal increased damage, and you deal 2% increased damage for each active swarm and touch swarm. And because we've dipped into both of those in every area we can, this scales really, really high. Tons of intelligence nodes all around to scale this as well. You want to get as many as you can. Coming up to the next section, we go for the drive board. Now you want to go up here and get drive. After moving 10 meters, you deal 6% increased damage for 10 seconds. This has changed as well. It's been buffed. I showed it at the start. So the time has halved. So it's 5 seconds, but the damage stack has doubled. I believe that's the change. So you're gonna feel this go a lot further, but burn off faster. So perfect for this season where we're going as fast as possible. And then for the node, you take Turf. For every 5 strength within range, you deal increased damage to close targets. So take a bunch of nodes around to buff that. Coming up to the next section, we go for Sapping and the legendary node down here. When you cast 3 Gorilla, Jaguar, Eagle, or Centipede skills with the same spirit in a row, restore 15 vigor and deal 60% increased damage for 5 seconds. Now, pretty much all of our abilities are Centipede. So you're going to jump into a pack, press all your buttons, and that's going to proc every single time. Then we, for our main node here, we go for the outmatch, grant bonus to all rare nodes within range. And the rare nodes within range are these ones here, these yellow ones. So we have damage, dex up here, and then down here we have max resource and dex. Now there are better places for that, but I think in a leveling build, you want to front load these early and get them in as fast as possible, and they work really well with those boards, so it fits there anyway. Then I take a bunch of stuff in here because it's just really good. You've got attack speed up here. Down here, you've got resource regeneration, max resource. I'd say once you hit this board, you'll never have resource problems. You shouldn't have by the time you get to endgame, but if you are still feeling it because your gear doesn't quite cover it, this will solve it. And then on the last board, we go for Vicious Shield, which gives us a, increased damage the more shield we have. We take a bunch of stuff around here. We've got things like barrier generation, crit strike damage. We've got armor and max life. Down here, we've got damage reduction while you have a barrier, things like that. And then finally, we go for Fester. Every 5 decks within range gives you increased damage with your centipede skills, and it'll increase damage to crowd controlled enemies, which brings everything we've been talking around together. And like there's tons of, I left it to the end because there's tons of decks in this node. You can get up to 105 decks here, which gives you a massive amount of poison. So that's the Paragon board. Like I say, take it as far as you want to take it. If you want to then move into a poison endgame build, you can. I'll have one available when, as soon as I get there in this season, that hopefully will have all of the new gear, the bloodied aspects in. So yeah, that's the build. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it. It's one of my personal favorites, but thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll catch you in the next one.